comic books, cause I don't wanna look at nothing. This world's too much. I swallowed all I could.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Trade Talk. I'm your host, Nico, and this is episode 32, the Late Tapes, Volume 8. And that's the 8th episode that I've been bringing out over the last 3 weeks now of content for you guys, bringing about 3 out a week, where I'm catching up on my backlog of books that I read for the first 2 months of 2020 that I just never got around to actually recording. So for whatever reason, I had an unplanned hiatus from recording for this show for the Late Night Chat Network page on SoundCloud. I continue to read. I just was never in the mood to actually record, so this is me trying to make my way through all those books and talk about them with you guys and get caught up, as well as read new books that have even come out over the last couple of weeks. So next week, when we reach the 10th episode of these late tapes, we'll be back on a weekly schedule, so expect episode 35 to be the first one next week after the 10th episode airs, where we're going to be back on a weekly schedule, and hopefully I'll be able to keep up again and get back into the swing of things. All right, so without further ado, let's get into the books. All right, first up, we got Invaders, Volume 2, written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Carlos Magno and Butch Guice. And then we also had Alex Gimerez, I guess the color artist, with Dono Sanchez Almera on these issues. And that's issues 7 to 12 that's collected in this volume 2 of the Invaders. I may have even talked about the first one on Trade Talk as well. I'm not a huge Invaders fan. These, I guess these are Golden Age characters for Marvel, like the original Human Torch, Toro, of course, and then you got Bucky, which now is Winter Soldier, and today's times the original. Not the original, I mean, it's Namor, but he was just different then. And then you got Captain America. I don't have I don't go, ooh, an Invaders book, but I think just Chip Zdarsky has just been firing on all cylinders lately. He's definitely been doing some great work for Marvel, and I've been kind of on board to check out anything he's been writing the past little while. So when the first volume of Invaders came out, even though I didn't check it out in issues, I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And it wasn't bad. I liked it. This basically just continued. It's all been one big story. I believe the series is done now, so these 2 trades will collect the whole series. Nice little 12-issue run. If it has continued, my apologies, but I don't think it has, as far as I know. And yeah, I mean, this continues the story about how apparently Professor X messed with Namor's memories, and it's caused some issues, kind of a falling out between, him, the surface dwellers, the humans, his old comrades, the Invaders, as well as, just him and humans. And he's kind of caught in between being a mutant, caught in between his, his being the fact that he's a king for Atlantis, his kingship and rightship to the throne and to his people, like what he wants to do right by them, and also by the fact that he fought for humans. He came on land, he lived there, he had relationships with people, he has all these old comrades in the Invaders, and in Cap and Namor, Cap and Toro and Bucky, and he's got a history with all these guys, so it's him with his fucked up memories and past and conflicting, kind of finding, where he kind of can be himself and feel most comfortable, right? Was a lot of themes that kind of followed its way from the first volume into this second volume as well, because they're still kind of dealing with a lot of the fallout with Namor. And, and then basically... you're dealing with Roxxon in this, as Roxxon targets Atlantis, and, they're caught up in between all that shit, too. The Invaders are trying to help Namor, but, and the Winter Soldier basically goes on a mission with Cap in this one to help out with that situation, and they're trying to bring him to Namor to justice, and for... he's just having a hard time with that. He's so really that is the crux of what this story is about. yeah, it's mainly a Namor story, and he's kind of caught up in between everything, and Namor being the asshole that he normally is, this causes a lot of issues for everybody, and they have to work it out. And I gotta say, I quite enjoyed this. It was a nice little 12-issue run between these two trades. I wasn't sure so much about the art in the first volume. Like, I was having a problem telling I felt the Butch Geis, I think, was the one that I didn't like. No, it may have been the Carlos Magno art. It was one of the two that I didn't feel one was bringing it as well as the other on the first volume. But this one, because one of them was doing, I think it was the flashback stuff that Butch Geis was doing. So yeah, I think it was the Carlos Magno art. Either I got more used to it or it was just more tolerable in this one. Yeah, definitely the Carlos Magno art I didn't like as much. I think that Butch Geis is great. And they used his art mainly for like the old flashbacks that they kind of keep showing throughout these issues of them back in the day as they were invaders, and I think it works quite well for that. But the Carlos Magno art, not as good. Some sloppy in some places, other places it does look great. But I gotta say, I think with this second volume, these issues 7 to 12, it looked better than the first volume of issues that he had done. So I don't know if he just kind of caught his stride here, or I just didn't notice it as much. But it didn't bother me as much in this volume as it did the first one. But I still think Butch Geis is the better of the two artists. But I like how they split the work between the two. I mean, usually that's a nice technique when you get somebody to do all the flashbacks, especially if they have a style that lends itself more to that as opposed to the main series artist. But I don't expect them to put the best of artists on the series like this anyways, because it's Invaders. I mean, like I said, we're lucky to get the 12 issues. I think this is a concept that definitely worked out better before, and if it wasn't really those ties to their past between these characters that Chip Zdarsky was able to explore a little bit more within this second volume, then you don't really have much to say about these characters at this point in time. Like, there's wars going on around the world still, but not, like when these guys got together back in the day and they were able to tell stories of like probably World War II and stuff like that, right? So, but yeah, it was a good book, decent art. Chip Zdarsky, writes a great Namor, and if you're a fan of that character, I would suggest checking this out, because I think that it was a good story of his, along with the rest of the Invaders as well. Just, almost tagging along or being part of the story, but he is definitely the main focus, I think, that drives, everybody on both sides of this story, between Roxxon, between the Invaders, between, his conflictions, right, with everybody in it. So it's really great. Next up, we got No One Left to Fight. This is volume 1. Not sure if they're going to get a volume 2. This is written by Aubrey Sitterson, art by Fico Ossio. Taylor Esposito, I think, is the colorist, I want to say. Letters. Okay. Looks like Fico Ossio, the artist, did some of his color art along with Raciel Avila on certain chapters. So this was kind of pitched as a book that basically like Dragon Ball Z. Everything I'd heard about it, I heard that he took inspiration from Dragon Ball Z while wanting to write this, and being a big fan of Dragon Ball. I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. Aubrey, I haven't read many comics by him. He's a big wrestling guy. I know he's involved in the wrestling community. He wrote a book about wrestling, a comic book about wrestling, which I own. I haven't gotten around to reading yet. Very much looking forward to it, though. And yeah, this trade collects the first 5 issues, is published by Dark Horse. And that is, the comic book story of professional wrestling. Yeah, he did some G.I. Joe stuff as well, according to the back here. Yeah, inspired by the legendary Dragon Ball. So, I don't know. And then, like, it says fans of... I'm just reading stuff off the back of the trade here, though. And then it says fans of Hellboy, Umbrella Academy, and Black Hammer won't want to miss this exciting new vision of what genre comics can accomplish. Honestly, let's be honest, and I try not to trash shit on this show, but the fact that they put all those fucking great fucking comics and tried to compare them to this, I don't know, this... I wanted to say, like, this thing that had, like, no heart to it. I don't know. It just felt like he was just going through the motions writing this fucking comic. Honestly, it just was such a letdown, disappointment. I was really excited to check this out. This did not connect with me whatsoever. I mean, and again, Black Hammer is just amazing right now. Hellboy, fucking legendary fucking series. Umbrella Academy is good. I like it, but again, like, compared to that on the back of this, like, they're really trying to sell this book. Anyways, that's a Dark Horse thing. That's what they have to do. Let's talk about Aubrey Sitterson's writing on this. It was fine. The artist is okay too. I mean, it's very cartoony, very animation-like. If I definitely say it's definitely more of somebody that's like, it looks like he was almost like Battle Chasers, kind of almost like Joe Mad, but nowhere near as good as Joe Mad. But just like the kind of like cool animated look of the characters and stuff in this. And there's people that have like powering up powers in this. Even towards the end of the book, they try to merge, which is something that Dragon Ball characters do. They definitely turn into Saiyans. Their hair kind of turns blonde and stuff. So like, and you really just get that in the last issue of this. Prior to that, there's some fighting. There's some other possible themes you can connect to Dragon Ball, are saying like, okay, well, this person's the Bulma and this person's the Goku of the group. Like, there's the main character that we're following in this. I can't remember his name, but he's like basically Goku. Like, they even have, the artist definitely even has moments where he does that. If you've seen Dragon Ball, Goku has this thing where he just puts his arm, like his hand on the back of his head, and like closes his eyes and like looks like smiley and very shy like when he gets like embarrassed or is like, in these awkward situations, kind of like, oh, look at me, I'm a big dummy type stuff, right? And and he has those moments. Like, the artist actually did that like 2 or 3 times in these 5 issues. Like, you see him bust that move out where I'm like, okay, that's definitely something you'd see Goku do on the cartoon. Like, I recognized it right away, but it's obviously not Goku doing it, or and then there's taking stuff that's inspiration of that, and I'm not even looking for it to be a direct ripoff of Dragon Ball, but then even to say it's inspired by it and not be anywhere as fun as Dragon Ball is, and like, it doesn't even feel like they established the characters that well in these first 5 issues. And like, again, like, maybe I'm putting Dragon Ball, to me, because listen, I've heard lots of people talk shit about Dragon Ball and say similar things where, there's no character development, not interesting, it's all fighting and stupidness. And yeah, they even do the thing, they make the joke at the end of each of these issues where it's kind of like, find out next time on Dragon Ball Z, like, and like the English dubs back in the day that we used to watch that maybe not everyone's familiar or got. But it's the same type of shit. Like, what's going to happen to our hero? Blah, blah, blah. Like, they do that shit at the end of each issue. So I get what he's going for here, but I just didn't find this fun. It just felt like it would have been better if it was a ripoff of Dragon Ball almost. Like, he's trying to, like, there is definitely some things that he's kind of like, I wouldn't even say inspired from, he's just directly pulling from Dragon Ball in this. And then there's other things where it's just like, okay, I see maybe what you're trying to do, or trying to put a little bit of that Dragon Ball flavor in this type of situation, but it's not really working for you. The characters in the world and the stuff that exists on paper, even the bad guy here, isn't that interesting to me. The art is just fine, but it's nothing like, again, that I'm too keen on or interested in this style. So yeah, it just really, really fucking didn't land for me at all in any regard, and I just felt it was like just boring. I mean, I wouldn't even say it was bad. The writing was fine, but it was just like, it was just nothing new or interesting about this other than the fact where you can make that connection where you're like, okay, well, there's some things that they're playing on that are Dragon Ball themed or oriented, but this is its own thing. But in being that and trying to be its own thing, it's really nothing at all. Like, to me, like, it's just very not enjoyable, interesting, or fun. And yeah, it did not click with me whatsoever. And yeah, sorry to say I don't like talking trash about books, but if there's something I didn't like, I'm gonna tell you guys. So, I try to always give a fair assessment and review on these shows, but this is one I'll be getting rid of for sure. I just didn't like it. It was a trade paperback. And that's the other thing. For 5 issues, they charged $19.99 for this fucking book. Like, a lot of Dark Horse books usually are like, even like $15 for these trades. So I'm surprised this was so high up. I don't know if that's because they had to make some of their money back for low sales or what, or they had some, that's the price point they agreed on, or that's what it's going up to for their trades. Maybe they're selling it off of Aubrey's name, but I just didn't like it. So, all right. So last but not least, probably the best book I'm going to talk about tonight. Yeah, no, it definitely is. This is Something is Killing the Children, Volume 1, written by James Tynion IV, art by Werther Dell'Edera, who I'm not familiar with. This is probably the first time I've seen her work, and colored by Miguel Muerto. This is a really good book. Again, this is a horror book. I feel like I've been reading a lot of horror kind of based titles lately. Not in this, like, it's about a kid. It seems that he was a gay kid. They comment on him maybe liking one of the boys that he was with after the fact that it happened in this, but it's not like the main theme of the book. Like, it's not like it's every issue they're talking about him being gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but yeah, there's it's definitely something that they talk about. I think the first issue or two, it's mentioned slightly, and just in relation to this, like I said, one of the kids' friends. So all these kids are having a sleepover, and I feel that like some of these kids may not be as good of friends with him. They may even pick on him time to time, maybe because of the gay thing. I mean, kids can be cruel like that, at least back in the day. And they're all having a sleepover, and this kid tells this scary story about saying that he saw something walk by in his backyard the night before, and that they should all go in the woods. And like, because he gets dared, they're playing truth or dare, that he gets dared that he basically, go show us where this thing is that you claimed you saw or whatever. And he tells this scary story. Seems like he's just trying to scare them. So he's like, okay, I'll take you guys. And then like all like 3 of his friends, he like takes them out to the woods. And I guess one of them, like I said, he had an attraction for. It was like his best friend, but he didn't feel that way about him. And I guess it's something that bothered him that they touch on later on. But he took all these kids to the woods, and all these kids just get eviscerated, like fucking arms ripped off, like entrails just fucking flying out. You kind of see some crazy fast movements, some sort of being or creature or something in the woods. Like, the cutscenes are very fast, but what ends up happening is like he's covered in blood, and then they find out that all these murders were done, and he claims that something happened, but he's not really sure, and he doesn't want to tell people that he actually saw this monster, and doesn't really have an explanation for it, because he doesn't want to actually think that the monster was real. But the fact of the matter is, he told a story. Whether or not it was true, a monster did appear in the woods and kill all his friends. And then on from there, you find out that it's happening to a bunch of children in this town. There's a bunch of weird disappearances, murders. They're finding some bodies, others not. That's starting to spread through this town. And then this person, her last name's like Slaughter, or at least that's what she calls herself. Erica Slaughter. Yeah, she comes to town, and she's wearing this. Her design is really cool. She's almost like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like in the way she looks, but then at the same time, she's got like this bandana that she puts around her face that has like all these crazy jagged pointy teeth, so it takes place of where her mouth would be, but so she ties it around the back of her head, and it kind of gives this kind of a crazy ass look to her, to kind of make her scary looking as well. And then you find out she's a monster hunter. So she comes to town, she starts investigating the happenings in this town and why this is happening. She takes the kid under a wing, promises him that she'll help solve this thing and kill these monsters that killed his friends. And there's a lot of mystery and intrigue and stuff going on about who she's working for. The cops are kind of somewhat involved. They're trying to figure out if she was somewhat responsible, like who is this mysterious woman, and what's your mission here, and who, again, like there's you don't find out completely, but there's some interesting things that's going on with her and who she works for, and and she has like this little doll with her that she starts talking to, and I'm kind of dancing around some specific reveals and points, but again, it's one of those things. By the end of the volume, it left me wanting more. I didn't know everything that actually went down or occurred in this. There's still some questions left unanswered that I'm sure are going to go into the next volume. From what I've heard, this is a very popular series at the moment. And it was really enjoyable, and the art was good too. I'm not familiar, like I said, with Werther Dell'Edera's art, but it's different. It's hard to describe. It's definitely interesting. Like, it looks muddied at places, definitely like maybe smudgy, or the way like there's like pencil shading that's applied to simple kind of line work. I don't know if it's digital or not, but there's definitely some interesting shading that adds depth to otherwise some simple illustration, but it works. It works for the book. It looks good. And I love this Erica Slaughter character. The kid's fun too. At least he's more of like the scared kid, deer in the headlights type situation here, who's just being tagging along with this other character. So he's really just driving the other things that are happening around him in the story right now, and as well as like his involvement with these kids. But he's interesting so far as well too. I think the townsfolk are very interesting as well. There's like a kid who's his little sister got killed, and he kind of feels that when he meets Erica in the town, he thinks that she's responsible. Like, she's like, who the fuck is this person? So he kind of starts following her and looking into things. Yeah, overall, it's just a lot of interesting things going on in here. Well written. I always find James Tynion does his best stuff usually in the creator-owned books that he's done. And this is also published by Boom. I think I didn't mention that at the start of this, at the top of me talking about this book. He also has done a lot of things through Boom. So, really good series, and pretty dark too. Whenever the kids get killed in this story so far, it's pretty brutal how they get killed. So, not for the faint of heart, but definitely something to check out. Highly, highly recommended after the book that I just talked about that I could not recommend less. So, all right. So there you have it, everybody. Look for another episode of these. If you listen to this the day it comes out, tomorrow will be another one dropping. And like I said, the week following, we're back on track and caught up on these Trade Talk episodes. So I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks.